Hello and welcome to Penmanship, a podcast about Australian writing culture. I'm your host, Andrew McMillen. Today's guest is a slight departure from the journalists and critics you've heard in episodes so far. This show is all about people who earn a living from working with words, and given that music is a consuming passion in my life, I was always planning to include songwriters. I'm honoured that my first such guest is the frontman of a rock band that has been among my favourites for over half my life. His name is Jon Toogood, and he's the singer and guitarist in a band named Shihad. Formed in Wellington, New Zealand, the band are well known among Australians following the success of their breakthrough album, The General Electric, in 1999. Jon and his bandmates have been based in Melbourne since around that time, and have released a string of great albums since. The most recent was FVEY, released last year, a hard rock record with a political agenda, which we discuss in some detail in this episode. I first met Jon Toogood in 2011 when I interviewed him for a Mess+Noise Storytellers feature about two of my favourite Shihad songs, Home Again and Deb's Night Out. I also interviewed him about drug use for my book Talking Smack in 2013, when Shihad were touring Australia while supporting Black Sabbath. He's an energetic conversationalist and a mad music fan above all else, which should become apparent pretty quickly. Our conversation touches on the concept of justice, which featured prominently in Jon's writing for FVEY, how his marriage to a Sudanese woman changed his perspective and led to him undertaking charity work, his early interest in reading horror novels which led to writing his first Shihad song, the fine line between confidence and arrogance in musicians, and how he has learned to deal with negative reviews of his music. Our conversation took place in Brisbane in early June, when Shihad were performing 3 shows in southeast Queensland. I'd seen them a couple of nights earlier at the Hamilton Hotel, where they were in incredible form. They're simply one of the best live rock bands I've ever seen, and I decided years ago to never pass up an opportunity to see them live. Jon and I spoke on a Sunday afternoon in an inner-city hotel room that he was sharing with guitarist Phil Knight. You'll hear Phil arrive partway through the recording and try to quietly creep past with a box of freshly bought Fruit Loops. Introducing Jon Toogood, songwriter and musician. Jon Toogood, welcome.
How are you, man?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. I got back late from the Gold Coast last night, so a little bit slow to be waking up now, but I'm all right.
So you've done 2 90-minute sets roughly in the last 2 nights.
Yep.
How are you physically? How's the voice?
The voice is a little bit sore, but not too bad. I mean, I'm still learning now after 25 years, it's like, so when I find that it's starting to hurt, I actually, instead of pushing harder, which is what I used to do when I was younger, I actually pull back a little bit, and all of a sudden my voice box opens up, and it seems to be going good. It still hurts a little bit. I don't do it every day, So,
yeah. So this is a podcast about writing culture, and you're the first songwriter to be featured. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask, looking at a show like Friday Night, where you played 14 songs from across your catalogue, when you're writing some of those songs, do you write with performance in mind? Like, do you imagine yourself on stage singing and playing?
Only musically. So there's a physicality to the music side, which definitely you are thinking, does this move me? But that's how I do it. It's like, do I start moving uncontrollably? Usually if it works for me, it's going to work for other people because I'm a person too. So, so only musically, I'm thinking about what effect it has on other people. When it comes to words, it's purely like looking at myself. Sorry.
Take it. Yeah, if it's Phil.
Sorry. Phil? Yeah. Hey, I just called you just to let you know that I'm actually recording an interview in our room. So just when you come back, so that you don't freak out, I'm recording a podcast interview. Okay. Okay. Cool, man. No worries. Bye. Okay. So getting back to it, I can cut in where I was. So when it comes to lyrics, that's purely it's all internalized. It's all about trying to work out how I see the world. Blah blah blah. But I don't. Whenever I've thought about other people or what other people's reaction to my writing lyrically was, it usually stops the flow entirely and usually ends up sounding not like myself anyway. So yeah, it's got to be a personal thing for me to work side.
Writing and recording with your, as a solo activity as well as with the band versus performing before a crowd. Do you prefer one to the other, or are they both sides of the same coin to you?
The performance aspect over the recording aspect, they're a completely different thing. They're all part of one thing. So yeah, do I prefer one over the other? Not particularly, because they're totally different. You get totally different buzz out of both things. Performance, yeah, I've always been a show pony from a little kid. I love that communal vibe of being in a room with human beings and everyone doing the same thing at the same time, moving at the same time or singing the same words at the same time. There's a really, close to spiritual sort of edge to it, to me. Yeah. And it makes me feel good about being a human, which is great, because I need that. I need that to go to sleep at night. So that's the really good thing. It's very life-affirming. But when it comes to recording, there is something really nice about putting something together that's new, that wasn't there when you woke up in the morning,
Do you write music to please yourself?
Absolutely. Like, I do it like I'd say, this is sometimes it's so self-indulgent that it's almost like I feel guilty sometimes because I just get lost in it, and I know sometimes it's like playing a computer game to me. It's like it's like playing. It's like playing an Xbox One game, except you get something out of it at the end. It's like you don't feel that guilty. I need to write. I need to write because it's what I found made me feel like I wasn't wasting my time on this planet. I need to write because it does help me make sense of the world, and it helps me to just feel like I've got momentum in my life. And to help me update where I'm at. Yeah.
With that said, do you also write to please an audience?
Going back to what I sort of talked about earlier, when it came to second guessing myself and writing for other people, it's always sucked, basically. I mean, to put it bluntly, we have done that in the past, and you can't. The thing is, writing has to come from yourself. It really has to come from yourself. It has to be honest, and it has to be, even if it's not hip or cool, it has to be what you're feeling. Otherwise, people will quickly find out that it's not real. And as soon as it's not real, there's something that it just breaks, it collapses the wave function, and it doesn't really work because you're on stage saying something you don't fully believe, or people can hear it in the music. That's how I see it anyway.
Have you felt that way at certain points throughout your career?
Yes, when I've co-written, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When I've co-written with the industry in mind, there was a time when Shihad were, it's going to be the next big thing. We're going to throw you over to Nashville. You're going to write with this guy. Then you're going to fly to New York, and you're going to write with this guy. And then you're going to fly to LA. You're going to write with this guy. Now, a lot of bands do that, and a lot of musicians do that. Actually, a lot of pop musicians do that. The thing is, I started in a rock band, and it's like it's a different thing we're doing. We're making sort of collections of songs that become an album, which become a tour. We're not writing pop songs, like I do appreciate a good song, but we're writing ammunition to play live. Like ultimately that describes our feeling or the way we see the world. Pop songs do that too. But there is a sort of business intent behind it, and so whenever I've stepped into that world, I felt uncomfortable, and when you're feeling uncomfortable, you can't open yourself up to really get to what you're wanting to say, you sort of become guarded, or you're putting a filter on what you really want to say, and it's just not. All the best art is when someone's actually gone, Blair, this is exactly what I feel right now. It's always the best way.
Honesty and vulnerability.
And telling a true story, and telling the world, illustrating the world as you see it, rather than illustrating the world as you think people want you to see it,
Right.
Yeah. It's a different thing.
Well, I would like to talk across your whole career as a writer and performer, but I would like to focus on FVEY to start with. Your most recent album, and one of your best, in my opinion, was one of my favourite albums of last year.
I like it a lot.
When you started writing that album in particular, was there a particular spark that set it ablaze?
Okay, so I mean, we've been around long enough to watch, the political landscape move from the right back to the left, back to the right, and it's like we've seen that, and we're artists, so we are naturally drawn towards that idea of, I don't know, doing what's best for the society as a whole rather than doing what's best for ourselves. I'm as guilty as anybody else, getting into buying something new and going yay, and staying at home and playing with it and going, I like getting things as well. But I've always, my parents were working class British immigrants. Dad was a cabinet maker. We had no money when we were growing up, but it was all community, like they came over on a boat. My uncles and aunties weren't really my uncles and aunties. They were all boat people, basically, who had nothing when they arrived, and they all just looked after each other. In fact, I was reminded the other day by my mum that when Shihad first went to Europe, they all rallied and had a garage sale, all the British boat people, so that we could afford to go over. So, but that was that communal sort of that community spirit, I personally think, there's something going on with the modern, free market capitalist thinking, in its pure form that really is destroying the community. I think it's destroying the community spirit, and sort of separating each other, separating everybody. So, and I've got no problem with people being successful, but I do have a problem with people getting left behind, especially in a society that can afford to look after them, if it chooses to, So that was pretty much, I knew I was watching this all happen. It's happening in New Zealand with the National Party. It's happening over here with the Abbott government. And I knew that I wanted to talk about it because it made me, and made all of us actually really uncomfortable. So I didn't quite know, sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. Sorry, Phil.
Hi, Phil. I'm Andrew. G'day.
Yeah.
It's cool. Do what you need to do. So that came from a sense of frustration. Frustration. Well, a little bit of disappointment, really. Just disappointment. Sometimes you think, oh, that battle's been won, but it hasn't. It's like, watching. We were in America while Bush was in power, and watching that sort of, that whole country get sort of pulled into this war, which wasn't to do with what happened to them on September the 11th, which we were also there for, and watched it swing hard to the right, and quite nationalistic, and very nationalistic, and just seeing the negative aspects of that, and going and living through it, and at the same time back in Australia, it was Howard was in power, and again very right wing, when Obama got in power, it was like yay, we've learned, we've learned that this is a path that ultimately will it's selfish, and it's not there's a better way, basically. There's a better way to do it. So we thought that battle was won, and I think I even talk about that in The Great Divide, Yeah.
We sort of turned the other way because we were all relaxed, and meanwhile it sort of all swings back that way again. But I think now I'm getting older, I go, oh right, it's a constant battle, it's always going to be. And also, as I get older, I also go, it can't be one way, because there are good ideas, even from the right, there's good ideas on both sides, and we've actually got to evolve as a species and go, okay, right, so if we do it all your way, we're going to end up killing each other. But if we do it all our way, we'll be unsuccessful. So let's get the best ideas out of both, and let's try and, make it the best for the most amount of people we can, So that's sort of ultimately where Five Eyes comes in. It's like we've got to get over the red versus blue thing. We've actually got to move forward, But I will slap the red, the right wingers as hard as possible if I think that it's unjust. Yeah. There's something about justice in this record, It's like, I also think it has to do with, personally, I had a massive breakup, like with my ex-wife, and went through a huge court case, and had to deal with the legal system.
All right.
Yeah, so that also came up as well, in dealing with the whole idea of justice. It's like, what is just, what is unjust, blah, blah, blah. That was really interesting. So that sort of, but also coming out the other side and going, oh, well, you've actually, at the end of the day, you've actually just got to be as good as you can to everybody around you, and just try and be good, really. And if that sort of, if you doing good can help people around you to do good, then maybe that's the best you can do. Yeah. But yeah, there's a real sort of, I don't know, I've always liked the underdog. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I've always barracked for the underdog.
I'm just thinking of the video for Think You're So Free, which features a dog running in slow
motion. Yeah, totally.
Is that an underdog?
It is an underdog. That was just, I think, ultimately I gave that to Sam Peacock, who's a great video, the song to Sam Peacock, who I knew is a great video director. I didn't actually tell him anything. He just went, right, this is the song. Okay, this is how I want to represent that idea. And I thought he did a beautiful job of illustrating what I was talking about, because the words are so direct in that it's not funny, I want a car, a steady job, an endless line of people I can rob. It's like, that's the idea. It's like, why do we really want to teach our kids that greed is good? Is that a good thing to be teaching someone? It's like, no one else is going to help you, mate, so you just got to get to the top,
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just clamber over everybody else, and it's their fault if they screw up, if it's their fault if they're not successful. No. What I've always found is, if I actually get out of my little shallow, like little world of Johnny world, and actually do something for somebody else, it may not come back to me directly or straight away from that person, but I tend to find that good, if you put good out, good comes back to you. It seems to be a universal law that works, and the more you trust that is how it works, the more you get rewarded. The more you give out, the more you get rewarded, and the more you actually see the world like that, the happier I am as well. I'm actually a happier person that likes human beings a lot more. But if I let myself, and I can do this, go, well, I'm going to control this because there's no one helping me, I tend to become very unhappy very quickly, and feel very separate and very lonely, actually. Very lonely.
Disconnected.
Yeah. Well, it's like, living in Melbourne with 4.5 million people and feeling lonely. It's like, you shouldn't have to feel lonely, You just got to get out there, really.
When did you start putting all those concepts and kind of nebulous thoughts down into songs? Like, did you guys have the music, or did the lyrics influence the music? What's that process?
Music's completely separate, always completely separate. Right. We had a lot of music which we'd written after we toured the sort of greatest hits stuff, so where we were playing a lot of the older music off Journ and Killjoy, and it reminded me of what I liked about that sort of music. It's very physical, very rhythm orientated, and very powerful, and feels great to be inside. And it was like, I would like to have a collection of music that's got that physicality. Again, then we toured with Black Sabbath. Whatever you think of Black Sabbath, they've written some beautifully heavy music and big heavy music that stands the test of time. And even like you go back to the Paranoid record and things like Hand of Doom and Electric Funeral. They're actually protest songs as well. You know, they're actually, you know, they are fuck the man. You know, like you know, it's great. Even War Pigs is a great anti-war song. You know, it's great. So we were really digging that at the time, and it was just like, yeah, man, let's do something heavy. You know, heavy's beautiful, heavy's good. You know, and we do it well. You know, so let's play to our strengths here. So we wrote a lot of songs, wrote a lot of music based on that sort of idea, and then I knew that I wanted to talk about all the things we've just been talking about. So that provided a perfect soundtrack for that. You know, I mean, there were other things going on. Like I married a Sudanese woman who as soon as she got to Melbourne, went and joined this charity group called AIMS, which helps out refugees. Okay, and I think it's government funded, but it's all volunteer work. So she was teaching English to like Tamils, Afghanistan, you know, Afghani people, you know, people who are running away from some awful situation, who were prepared to put their own lives at risk and spend all the money they had to get away from a place where they're probably going to be killed, you know? And so she one day said, why don't you come in and talk about your life over here? So I went in and I was shitting myself basically, because I've never really done anything like that.
Were you speaking to adults or children?
Yeah, I was speaking to adults.
Right.
Yeah, so and so I met a whole lot of them and went, oh right, okay. So my whole idea of this thing is completely skew with. These aren't people that are doing it because they want to jump a queue. They're doing it because they don't want to fucking die. You know, they're doing it because they don't want to, risk persecution. Oh, and they also, they you know, but it also made me go, wow, I'm sitting in a room with people who have gone through what they've gone through. They're all from different parts of the world, yet they're all telling the same story. And the story's the same as my story, ultimately, even though I haven't had to run away from a corrupt government or a religious group that wants to cut my head off. But they just want the same thing, i.e. safety and shelter and prosperity and food and their kids to grow up safe. So it made me go, right, okay, so whenever I'd see any headlines saying, there's a process and, these are queue jumpers, and I just went, right, so this is bullshit, so we are being fed a punch of horse shit. This has got nothing to do with that, So that made me also quite, again, that whole thing of injustice came up. So I had all this heavy music, so I just went blah and got it all out, And I also had a guy that in Jazz Coleman, who encouraged me to do so, which is good. I needed it, because lyrics for me, it's like, I have to do my lyrics now, it's like homework sometimes, It is, it's like homework. And, but I do realise that it's probably the most rewarding part of the actual thing, if I get it right, but it's still work, I can jam all day, every day for the rest of my life, and it would just be like bliss to me. It would be like smoking a bong as a 16-year-old and playing PlayStation. It's fun, it's fun. It's not work, It's like, I would do this gladly any day. But lyrics, that's work, It's work, because you have to say something, man, And then you have to say something that means something to you, and that then goes out into the public sphere for people to go, that's bullshit, or you're a dick, or and it hurts every time you get that, and it's like, oh, do I have to go through this again? I've made 10 records. Every time, it doesn't get easier, it actually gets harder, because you're getting older and you should know better, so the bar's always going up a bit, You don't want to go down, you want to go up, So it's getting harder, because I'm like most artists, harshest critic is me, And you don't want to be a goose, you know. So you don't want to say something that's not real. You don't want to say something that's you don't want to say something that's dumb, you know. You want to say something that's good, you know, and you want to make a difference in the world. You want to be, for good rather than crap, you know. And sensitive artist syndrome. It hurts when you get people saying that shit, you know. But you do it because it helps you understand the world, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, but then you've got to get it out, you know, as well. But that's good too, because people do go, yay. You know, occasionally they go, that's good, thank you for writing that, that's great. But it's weird, it's like I still don't even, I go, yeah, that's nice, but my brain instantly just goes to the ones that go, what a pile of shit. And you go, yeah, man, I'm with you, brother. You know,
I interviewed you 4 years ago to talk about 2 songs in particular, Home Again and Deb's Night Out.
Oh yeah.
And you told me back then that you've always been very protective of lyrics and like not showing them to your bandmates, not showing them to anyone, kind of leaving it to the last minute and then just recording them and I guess not taking much feedback on. I guess that's still the case.
Well, with this one, like literally, because I had Jazz there, it was like, and we were in a studio writing. I mean, like I wanted to, like, we recorded the music, and it was an amazing process. I had some ideas already when we were recording the music, but which I'd already shown the band, and they knew where I was coming from, and they were good with it. So I knew that I had the backing of the band to go down the path of what I was doing. But Jazz was like, nah, you're not going to do you're going to have a month off. I was going to Sudan to see my wife's family, and he said, I want you to spend some time there and look back at where you come from that perspective, you know, and what you've got here, see what you've got here, what you don't have here. And it was a really important thing that he did stop me from writing at that point.
He kind of gave you an assignment.
He did
A
actually.
brief.
Yeah, it was a brief. Wow. It was like, have a look at what they're doing better than us, and have a look at what they're doing worse than us, you know, and how it affects, you know, you. I mean, because Northern Sudan, it's got an amazing history. You know, it was it's huge. You know, they were the guys that made the first pyramids and then took the idea to Egypt. You know, Nubian kings. You know, so then like in a more modern perspective, the British were there. They had some of the best universities in the world. They travelled all around the world. Amazing. And then since the 80s, they've had basically the army in control of their government, right? So, you know, unfortunately, there's quite a bit of corruption that goes with that, and there's a lot of fear that goes with that. You can't really, there's elections, but there's not elections, you know. So, but because of that, people have had to rally around and look after each other, you know. So there's a real community thing going on there. Like I notice, you know, when I got there, everyone knows everybody from the street and the neighborhood and the families, and if anyone needs anything, if someone's sick, everyone puts their money together to make sure that they go to the hospital. If someone needs clothes, they do that too, you know. Like there's no separate, there's the walls between each people's houses aren't symbolic, you know. They're actually not there in a way, you know. I mean, you know, people still give each other space, but everyone's visiting all the time, making sure everyone's okay, because the government's not going to do that, you know. Over here, we've got the government to make sure that if anyone, you know, tries to screw us over, we have recourse. We have a legal recourse, which is great, and I think that's really good. But we don't tend to know our neighbours as well, you know, and those walls are actually, they mean something between our houses, you know. So that sort of came into where I was thinking.
Were you keeping a journal at that point?
No, not really. Just looking, sitting and looking and watching.
Absorbing.
Yeah, absorbing. And and there were also things that happened while we were recording in Auckland, seeing like lines of people queuing for food at the, you know, at the night shelter, or, you know, in downtown Auckland and going, you know, I know everyone's house prices are going through the roof and you can now borrow and get that European car that you wanted. But what about these people? They weren't there before, or there was nowhere near as many of them before. So something's out of balance here, you know, and we've got to, that needs to be readdressed, you know. I know, I'm not saying that, you know, I want to take, you know, people's wealth off them and stuff like that, but we do need to look after the people that don't have as much as us, you know, because that says something about our character, and it also says something about our society, you know. Yeah, especially after seeing the poverty in some parts of Khartoum and going, even poor people are looked after by the community in a way, you know, like that we don't seem to be doing at the moment, you know, without a social welfare system, you know, like it's like just unwritten. It's just a community, like real community thing, you know. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
Do you see the songs you've written for this album as giving voice to the voiceless in a sense?
Well, I mean, I definitely, I'm barracking for the underdog on this record, without a doubt. And I definitely, it was great that my wife sort of dragged me into this world of, like, you know, just doing stuff for other people without expecting anything for it, you know, and that was like a big shift in my mentality, because I come from the West and I'm a creature of the West, and you know, you tend to, you sort of, and also I'm a driven careerist musician who all I cared about was, like, you know, where are we playing next, and what are we doing, and how are the album sales going, what are we, you know, where are we going, you know, it's like, it's so self-absorbed, you know, and it was like, I tell you what, I was totally over myself, you know, it's boring. And so it was great. I met the right person at the right time, and who showed me that there was a completely different world out there that I was totally missing out on, and that people needed help, and that I could help, you know. And I didn't need to be scared of helping. I used to be fearful of helping, you know. It's like, what if they don't want my help? What if they, you know, like, what if people don't, you know, like, what if I screw it up, you know, like, I don't know, you know. I thought I'd be crap at it, but I actually found I was all right, you know.
I think there'd be lots of people around the world who would say that your music has helped them.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, that one. I mean, it's like, I'm really glad that it has, but it's never been for them. You know, it's true though. It's like, it's been for me, you know. It's like, it's me trying to work out how I fit. It's me trying to work out why I feel like topping myself sometimes when I've got everything. Why do I still feel empty? Why do I still feel like there's a big hole in me, you know, like, why am I unhappy when I've actually got so much, you know, like, when I'm blessed, really, you know, what is wrong, you know?
But there's got to be a nice feeling that your career, while being very selfish and self-absorbed in one sense, you also, there's that performative element of releasing it to the world and it resonating with some people. Yeah,
no, that is a really positive outcome. But it is a side effect rather than than the actual goal of it. Whereas Five Eyes, I think, finally went. It was like, I want to do something good with our music. I actually want to do something that maybe can help. You know, with full knowledge of the fact that it's just rock and roll at the end of the day. You know, it's just rock and roll. But that's what I do with my life. So if I'm going to be doing that with my life, this is my vehicle for doing good. You know, this is my vehicle for actually saying something that's got a positive effect, that could have a positive effect. And, you know, maybe people would turn around and go, you know, I had one review where the guy went, it's the sort of thing that makes me want to join the Liberal Party. You know, it's like, I was like, okay, you're so hip right now that you've totally missed the point, you know, like, you're so hip right now that you're prepared to hurt the world to have a voice, you know, like to have a dig, you know, like, you know, it's like, is it cool to, like, want to join the Liberal Party because I wrote a record that said that maybe greed isn't good, and maybe we could actually help each other out a little bit, or you just want to get a dig? It's sort of like, that's that sort of, I've got no time for that sort of irony anymore. I've got no time for it. You know, like being cool is such a fucking waste of time. You know, it's like, and I don't care if I'm not cool. You know, like because there's no fucking point to it. You know, it doesn't do anything. It serves yourself. It doesn't serve anybody else. Right. You know.
But that response, that particular review is, I mean, as I think you'll agree with this, one of the roles of the artist is to provoke a response in the audience. True. Is that response more or less valuable than a positive response?
Is it more or less valuable? No, but it did actually reaffirm after I got over my tears of being hated. No, I had a bit of a chuckle actually, but I did go, all right, no, being cool to the point that you're, like, it's a very selfish thing, it's like you're worried more about what other people think in your social, in a social, I mean, in a particular scene, that you're more worried about that than worried about people getting fucking killed at sea or people dying in wars and that being a cause of the way we live in the West and blah blah blah. You don't even give a shit about that, It just made me go, all right, I don't have time for that, I'm 40. I'm going to be 44 this year. I don't have much time. I mean, maybe I've got half my life, but that's not much time, So I've got no time for worrying too much about being cool, I want to just try and be good, Being good is way more powerful, I think, than being cool, Yeah.
Sounds like a mature Jon Toogood to realise that. Could you have realised this 20 years ago?
Oh, no, I was a total dick. I was totally self-absorbed. I still am, but at the same time, I have good people around me to remind me, In fact, I've always had good people around me to remind me. The band, they're really good, They're really good with me. They've let me be a dick, but they've also corrected my poor behaviour when it has been poor.
Just it's up to whether or not you want to hear it at the time.
Oh, without a doubt, and yeah, it does. Yeah, it does come from the fact that I'm actually going to be 44 this year, that I can actually listen a lot more,
Just on FVEY, finishing up, do you recall the first time you listened to it in full, the completed mastered version in order? Did you have a particular response to it?
Because I'm such a greedy pig, I would actually, as soon as Forrester had mixed a track, I would grab that track and I would put it in my car and I'd play it at full bore and I'd go driving and then I'd play it again and again and again. And so I'd pretty much eaten it like a big bag of lollies individually before I'd listen to it as a whole. But I did, again, listen to it as a whole once I got the sequence. And we spent a lot of time with the sequence, making sure that it did roll from start to finish. Yeah. That's always been really important to us. I think we worry about that just as much as we worry about the arrangement of a song, is track order. Because we still think, because we're older, we still think that people listen to albums. Because that's what we do.
That's what I do as well.
Yeah.
And I saw that the other night where you played a couple of the songs back to back in the same order as the album, and it really flows well. There's
does.
A moment's pause and then straight into
boom,
the next
boom.
one.
Yeah, exactly. Boom, boom. Yeah, they've got to work. They've got to roll. You've got to drag people in, and you're in that world, and then 40 minutes later you can go and be in another world, with another record,
Have you gotten better at trusting your instincts? Like I presume you were happy with what you'd created at the end of that process. Did you have any expectations around how it would be received by the outside world?
Oh, I knew we'd made a really good record. I just knew, and I had that real. It was a really calm feeling rather than being overhyped. It was like there was a nice serenity to completing that record and going, thank you, universe, for getting Jazz Coleman down here at the same time as us writing that sort of music and everything coming right, and me trusting myself with the words and him encouraging me to do so, and the band being on the same page and encouraging me to go down that path as well. Thank you. I'm very, very happy, man. I'm a very, very happy man because that sounds exactly like I want it to sound. Exactly. If not a little bit better.
Yeah, right.
It has that energy. and it feels good to do something that made me go, oh, I love doing this with my life, you know. This is exactly what I want to do, you know. Now, did I have any expectations around it? I thought Shihad fans would probably dig it, and it was also good for me to go, whether you're not a Shihad fan or not, and even if you don't like this music, you can go get fucked because that's grunty, you know, like that's powerful, and we mean it, you know. And I didn't have any of those songs where I was going, that's a bit clunky, or, you know, like, which is always the case, you know. It's like I went, yeah, that's a complete body of work, works from start to finish. I'm happy with it.
Right.
Yeah.
That approach to expectation setting, how have you evolved that over the years? Like you mentioned that sense of calmness that came with FVEY because you thought you'd got it right.
Yeah. That's
not been the case before.
Oh no, you're always in trouble when you're going, I think that's good. Yeah, you're always in trouble at that point. From our experience, it's like if you're going, I think that's good, then it's not good enough. You know, when you go, I know that's good, then it's good enough. And yeah, there's been a couple of albums there where it's been like, I think that's good. Yeah, you think? I get needy when it's not right. You know, I get needy. I keep on asking other people for their opinion. With this one, it was like, I didn't have to ask other people. It was like, just listen to it, you'll get it. You know?
Which albums are you thinking of?
Oh, I reckon there's, like the Beautiful Machine record. I really liked the songs on that, but it was such a departure from Love Is the New Hate. I mean, we've done that in our career a million times. After Killjoy, there was the Fish album. You know, it was like, at the same time, I was pretty confident Fish album was good. I was actually slapped by reality after that one to say, you know, when our crowds halved, basically, they did. You know, it was like, where did everyone go? You know, it was like, it's funny because that record has now, in retrospect, become quite a classic Shihad record, but at the time, it was pretty much loathed, you know. It was like, what are they doing, you know? But I was so in my bubble at that point that I didn't realise. After that slap by the universe, I've always been much more sort of cautious about how our records have been, you know, perceived. I think the General Electric sort of brought that sort of confidence back. But again, that was a strong producer giving us that sort of that momentum as well.
Yeah, right.
It's good to have a good producer, I think. Whenever we produce ourselves, that gets a bit hairy, you know. Then you do spend a lot. I find I spend a lot of time going, I think it's right, you know. Beautiful Machine, Ignite, both records, both self-produced. Both I think have some really great songs on them, but we don't have that outside perspective, you know, or that outside push, you know. Jazz Coleman provided us that with FVEY, and on General Electric, Garth Richardson did that. Mind you, Killjoy, that was self-produced.
Oh, wow.
And that's pretty strong.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
That's pretty strong. But it was like studios were new to us. We were on a roll, you know, and we'd just done Churn with Jazz Coleman, you know, so it was only a year between those two records, pretty much.
Yeah, and a big life event between the two.
Well, yeah, losing our manager.
Who died of a
morphine overdose. Yeah. So that was a big one.
Yeah,
that was a big one. Plus, studios were new to us, so we were, you know, really experimenting with studios just as much as we were with songs, and it was a good time for music for us as well. It's like we've been introduced to New Zealand music and things like the Skeptics and stuff, which are very poetic, you know, very lyrical, you know, and you know, you're dealing with a guy that's writing from the perspective of knowing that he's going to die at the age of 23 or 24 with leukemia, you know, in David Duff, and going, oh, that's how you tell the truth in a song. Not that I have to die to know that I'm going to die to tell the truth, but he set a benchmark for me and made me go, oh, right, there's no point hiding with this stuff, you know. It is a matter of life and death.
Well, as a fan, you four are one of my favourite bands.
Awesome,
but I've had those moments of doubt in those two records, Beautiful Machine and
Totally.
Ignite. I was actually a critic for Ignite. I reviewed it for Rolling Stone.
Right.
And I didn't give it a good review.
Yeah, right.
Which tore me up inside because, like I said, I have so much love for you guys and what you've done and what you've given to me as a fan. But I had to say it's not a great album. There are some great songs.
There's some good songs on it. I mean, for me, like, I don't listen to it, but it was a good process. I mean, to me, it sounds like what it is, which is it was 75% rather than giving 100%. You know, it was we're self-producing. We're in a comfortable situation with our own studio, at our own time, and taking too much time. And it's just like, not focus. There's no urgency in that record, which is a shame. I mean, Sleep Eater was quite a cool song to play live. I liked The Final Year of the Universe. I liked what I was trying to get to with that song. It's like a nice big open thing, which I really liked. But it just didn't. It wasn't on fire. For which is quite ironic considering it was called Ignite.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point.
I mean, even the artwork. I thought Carl did a great job on the artwork, but it's beautiful. But even then, it's like a sunset. It's like a rather than a kaboosh. It's like, and that's what the record sounds like to me. It sounds like, I'm just gonna have a lie down. Where it's like, and it should be exploding.
Well, how did you recover from those disappointments? I want to say plural, because those two albums back to back.
Yeah.
How did you and the band rebuild confidence in yourselves?
I think I buggered off and did my own thing, and I think so did Tom, and so did everybody else. And basically, me working with a whole bunch of awesome musicians on the Adults project, and I'm not the main lyricist on that record. I'm watching other people write lyrics over music that I've created with other people. So music that's created in a totally different way from making music with Shihad, with the extra bonus of these different brains coming in and writing different lyrics, and going, oh, wow, I'd never thought of writing like that. Shane Carter's a really good writer. He's a really good lyricist, really rich language, to say the same shit that I'm talking about as well, life and death and love and loss and all that crap. But he says it in such a different way from me, and it's like, wow, I didn't even think you could use those words, but there you go. So learning, just having a nice big learning curve after and during Ignite, actually, and going, right, you can approach it in such a different way. And then doing the Brel show, like I was in a theatre show called Brel, which was about the life of, like a musical version of the life of Jacques Brel. All right, so that's a guy,
This is all new to me. I didn't know you did this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a guy that lived through World War II from Belgium, then went to France and saw some serious horrific shit when he was going through it, and then he again very angry, but very angry about what happened during the war and about how awful humans could be to each other, but obviously loved humanity. Obviously loved humans, because he had a lot of anger in his songs, but also a lot of wit and a lot of passion. And when he sung about love, he could break your heart, and I'd never really got into him before this theatre show. I just got called up out of the blue. How would you be for this? And I went, the only Brel song I've heard is Amsterdam, and that's David Bowie's version. And it was Amsterdam. It was David Bowie's version of Amsterdam, which I didn't like. I didn't even like it because I didn't get it, because it wasn't listening to the real guy. So when I got asked to do that, I quickly went on YouTube, had a look at him. I saw him performing Namakitepa, which is that song where he's basically asking this woman not to leave him, and he said, I'll be a flea on the back of the dog's ass if you'd let me to stay with you, And watching him perform, it was like, wow, that guy's like Iggy Pop, but from the 50s, he's like Iggy Pop in a suit, like. It was probably one of the best performances I've ever seen. And I went, well, I pride myself on being a live performer. That guy's way better than me. It's like, it was exactly the right kick in the ass I needed. Just like it was the right kick in the ass I needed when I saw AC/DC live when I was young. And it was the right kick in the ass when I saw Fugazi play live. The universe seems to provide me with something to make me go, oh, right, I don't know everything, and I've got a lot to learn. So this came around at the right time. It also made me go, you can be angry and smart. Yeah, with your words. Wow. I'm not saying that I'm getting anywhere near as close to good lyrics as his, because his lyrics are amazing. But it did make me go, you can write powerful music and angry music that is a social commentary and still be smart about it. You don't have to go, fuck the world and kill the rich and blah, blah, blah. You can actually just go, you can actually illustrate. You can use their weapons against them, and I love how he writes. So that helped me. I think that helped. It gave me a path that I could go, oh, right, you can write heavy music, that's angry and not childish. You can write music that's angry and adult, So yeah, that really helped.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is any of that stuff online or on record? I'd like to check it out. Or was it just like a series of once-off performances?
No. We did a run of three weeks in Auckland, and then we did all these arts festivals around New Zealand. And I think there's talk of maybe doing it in Tasmania next year. But great, it was like great live band, like all jazz kids. Really great and really good rearrangements of the songs. And then it was basically me, Julia Deans, a great singer, Tama Waipara, who's an amazing singer, and Jennifer Ward-Leland, who's an actress who sings, but 50 years old, very experienced actress, So, and we were each given 5 or 6 songs to, and we were different aspects of his personality. Obviously, I was the guy that did, Next, which is about, a 16-year-old guy getting thrown into the army and thrown to the front line. But before he got thrown into the front line, he, like all the other kids, were made to lose their virginity at a whorehouse, which was all paid for by the army. Wow. But the only problem was he caught gonorrhea off the prostitute, and then for the rest of his life, every time he had sex, he'd just hear the sergeant major going, next, which is a really heavy song, but it's fucking powerful, and it's a really great anti-war song, but in such a totally weird way, So I do songs like that, and they're fucking heavy, heavy in theme and actually heavy in music, So I'd be doing that, and I'd do Amsterdam, Yeah, so they gave me all the grunty ones, which suits me.
Cool. I wondered if we could go back to your growing up, your upbringing.
Oh, yeah.
When did you realise you wanted to be a musician?
I mean, seriously, I always loved music from when I was young. I loved watching records go around when I was 2. Apparently, my mum said that I used to just rest my teeth on their little, in one record player and speaker thing, and I just rest my teeth on it. Apparently, my teeth would be black from where the vinyl was, because I just watched the records go around. I just go, that is amazing. It's like that needle is on that bit of vinyl, and then the sound's going down that arm, and then it's coming out the speaker. It's like magic. It's like alchemy, And my dad liked Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald, which I didn't really dig, but they did have the Beatles. Hard Day's Night record, which I thrashed. Yeah, I loved it. And they had a lot of 7-inch singles as well, which I thrashed as well, which were, I suppose, quite 70s stuff. And I mean, like anything from Gilbert O'Sullivan to, like anything I could get my hands on. I just thought it was magic, the process. Then I was lucky enough to have older brother and sister. My brother was, 6 years older than me. He got into Queen, and he had those sort of records, and then my sister was a bit more, because of the age difference, she was more into Stiff Little Fingers and Sex Pistols and the British stuff. So I was lucky to have all that. And then on top of it, I loved listening to the radio as well. So I bought I loved Bob Marley for some strange reason, and actually I still love Bob Marley. So Legend, I think, was one of the first records I bought, and Human League Dare. Two really political records there.
Yeah.
How's my hair?
So your brother was older. What about your sister?
She's older too. So I'm the spoiled little mummy's boy of the bunch. But I was always fascinated with the guitar. I saw my uncle went on a trip back to Britain when I was 7 years old. I saw my uncle Charlie play an acoustic guitar. This was after, I'm completely in love with music. So then I see one of my family members actually make that magic happen in front of me, and I go, I didn't realise normal human beings could do that. So at that point I went, can you buy me a guitar?
Was he talented? Was he good?
He's pretty solid,
Around,
just muck around.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally muck around. But the fact that I'd never seen anyone play the guitar that close, in the same room. So I just thought like they were a different breed of human musicians. So finding out that they weren't, I went, okay, can I please learn how to play guitar? So my parents bought me a 3/4 size guitar when I was, I think, about 8 or 9. Taught me to classical guitar lessons, which almost put me off because I hated it because it was work rather than fun. But luckily for me, he'd always teach me a contemporary song. So Imagine I learnt and a few other songs, and so that's I didn't really want to be in a band. I wanted music in my life. That was it, And then I think I got disillusioned with the classical guitar thing at about 12. Put the guitar down, went and became a cricket player. I was always a sport head. Became the captain of the Wellington rep cricket team. Was definitely like wanting to be a New Zealand cricket player. That was all I wanted to do. And then I met Tom at Wellington High School, and he went, I heard you played guitar. And I went, I haven't played for years.
You had a reputation.
Yeah. I think, I did. but I'd never played an electric guitar. I'd only played an acoustic guitar with my fingers as well. So I'd never even used a pick. So he had to show me how to use a pick and an electric guitar. And at that point I went, right, I'm giving up cricket.
Was he drumming at that point?
He was drumming. He was a great drummer too. But I had no idea he was a great drummer. I just thought that was what a drummer was. So I drummed with Tom for, from that part at school up until, and I didn't realise he was a good drummer until about 10 years later that I actually bothered jamming with somebody else and went, how come that guy's not in time? And it's like, can you just keep the beat steady? It's like, it's not hard. But then I found out it was, and that I'd actually been spoilt. Meeting Tom at school, and it's like the guy's like a human metronome. It's bizarre. Yeah.
What were you reading as a child, as a teenager?
As a teenager, I was trash. It was just like Stephen King. Loved Stephen King. He pretty much just horror. Clive Barker. Yeah. Hellblazer or Hellraiser or whatever it was. I can't even remember. But the more horrific, the better. The first song I wrote was It, based on Stephen King's It.
Cool. I see.
Yeah, man. It was like deep stuff.
Were you a good student?
I was a good student in art history, and music, and then I didn't turn up for the rest of them. But I always did just enough to pass the exams. That was back before internal assessment. It was all down to the end of year exam. So I was one of those lucky little pricks that could actually, as long as I had the notes. That's my time. That's my time to pray.
I see. Do you want to pause? Do you want to pray?
No. It's okay. I can put Duha and Asa together later on, so that's all right.
Okay, as long as I'm not messing with.
No, it's all good. It's actually good. It's actually good. Cool, it's fine. What was I going to say? Where was I? What was I saying?
Reading. You're a good student. You're a lucky prick.
I was a lucky prick who could cram the night before an exam and then just pass. So basically, high marks in art and art history, which I actually did turn up for, and that I was passionate about. I was at one of those schools that was good only if you were passionate about it. The teachers would go, okay, well, let's learn, But if you didn't bother, they didn't care if you were there or not. It was Wellington High School, which worked for me because at least I had a few subjects that I was passionate about. That got me through.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I could always cram the night before and pass. So that's what I did. I could probably have done a lot better. Yeah.
What were you aspiring to at that point? Were you trying to go to university?
No, I was trying to work at the record store.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. I wanted to work at a record store. I wanted to work at the coolest record store, which was Chelsea Records. That was where, basically, that was like my magical place, you know. I'd go down there after school every day and just look through metal imports and then talk to the guys in there about what the cool thing I should be listening to was. It was a land of magic, you know. And that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be around that, you know. I ended up working there, you know.
All right. What age?
16, 17. No, 17. I made it up to university entrance, so sixth form. I don't know what that is over here now, or I don't even know what it is over in New Zealand now. But yeah, about 16, 17. And I just instantly went to working into a record store. Yeah.
Which musicians and songwriters were you admiring at that point?
At that point?
Yeah.
Songwriters. You mean riff writers. At that point, it was all Metallica, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Slayer. Yeah, pretty much that.
Heavy shit.
It was all heavy shit, yeah. It was funny because like my sister, who was obviously from more of a, I don't know, she had the jam. I mean, like, the thing is, I had all this background in really good music, like music that was well written, like all the Bob Marley stuff's beautifully written. It still sounds great. You know, my sister gave me, you know, Stiff Little Fingers, Inflammable Material, which is a great roar of rage and political angst, you know. Then she had Pill, and she had, you know, early U2, which I really liked. You know, I loved the War record when I was young. It's like New Year's Day and really cool songs, you know. And but also the Jam, That's Entertainment record, which I still love, you know. And my brother, you know, I really like Queen Live Killers, you know. It was cool, man. I thought, at the time I thought it was cool. I still sort of like it. But I always had this, you know, actually, I'm wrong about the first record. I actually bought Kiss Alive 1 off one of my dad's workmates. He brokered that deal for me. But, I mean, that was the first band that I fell in love with, actually. So, I mean, I was always into the big... I think because I like comics as well, they sort of like were that band that were like, they were sort of Marvel superheroes that played rock and roll. So it's two of the good things thrown into one, you know. Like, I got my comic jollies at the same time as getting my music jollies, you know. I don't really listen to Kiss now, but I did when I was young, you know. But yes, I always had that sort of element of fantasy in my music, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Which my sister would always go, if you get into heavy metal, I'm going to totally disown you. But meeting Tom was like that. And I think also because she said, I'll disown you, it made me go, I've got to find out what this metal music's about, you know.
Well, you're kind of painting that heavy stuff as shallow or poorly written, but like some of those Metallica songs, like Fade to Black and One, like
totally Disposable Heroes, man. It's a really good anti-war song, you know. Soldier Boy made of clay, now an empty shell, you know. It's like, yeah, he was writing some good words on that record.
Did you try to break down their writing, not just the riffs, but
well, I literally that when I got Master of Puppets, that record was religiously played at least twice a day. I had to listen to that record to make the world was all right if I heard that. And in fact, so much so that I had the vinyl of it, so I zeroed in on side 1. So for 2 months, I was a side 1 guy, and for the next 2 months, I was a side 2 guy. I didn't care about any other records, you know. That was the record, you know. It had everything I needed, you know, to sustain me musically, you know. It literally was exactly the record that I wanted metal to be, you know. When my sister said, don't get into metal, else I'll disown you, I was on a quest from that point to find out what she was talking about. So when I heard Saxon or Iron Maiden, I went, yeah, they're cool, but this is not exactly what I imagined metal to be, you know. But when I heard Master Rose, I went, that's what I imagined heavy metal to be. It sounded like metal, you know. Sounds like metal, sounds like a machine, you know. Fucking beautiful. It still sounds great, that record, you know.
Yeah.
Amazing record.
Where were your parents in all this? Were they on side with your aspirations and your career path?
Luckily for me, I've had a very supportive family. And no matter what I did, it was like, he's passionate about it, do it. You want a guitar? They didn't have anything, they saved up and they bought me a guitar, and, they just supported me whatever I did. I think my father was a little bit bummed out when I, threw in the towel with the cricket career, because he's a sporting guy as well. So he was like, oh, my son's the captain of the Wellington team. He could be a Kiwi, it's like, and then when I went, nah, cricket's geeky, Dad.
Oh.
Guitars are cooler. It's like, for a little while there, but he became our number one supporter, I think, seriously, when we won Most Promising Band at a music awards and we were on the same, television as Coronation Street, which they watch religiously, they went, our son's doing something with his life, But even before that, they were like, he's into it, so we're going with it, Very lucky to have that.
The band's career progressed well. Strong debut onto the next album, which did even better, I believe.
It took a while though, that second record. I mean, we had a lot of people that liked Churn that went, that's not metal, at first, we were referencing bands like Bowder Space and My Bloody Valentine on that record, and to metal guys that went, that's not in our sphere of listening, and we. So I remember Killjoy. It took about a year and a half before people came around to that record, Yeah.
What kept you motivated and energized?
Oh, because we knew it was a good record. Yeah, that serenity that what I talked about earlier.
Self-belief.
We knew. Yeah, we knew it was a good record. So it was like, yeah, okay. And also we sort of went, so that some of our New Zealand fans didn't get it. We're going to tour in Europe. We're going to tour in America. We're just going to keep going, And we did. We just had that self-belief, Yeah.
Was it a fine line between confidence and arrogance at that point?
I was so like blinkers on. I didn't see the rest of the universe. I mean, it was just like Shihad. That was it, I had no time for anything else, We are on a mission here. We are on a mission to become the best rock band that ever came out of New Zealand, but forget it, even New Zealand. We just want to be the best rock band, full stop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What were the aspirations? To be a Metallica level, AC/DC level kind of thing?
Yeah, it's
were these things spoken out loud or just kind of in your head?
No, we just wanted to be, we wanted to be one of those bands. Yeah, we wanted to be one of those bands. We did. It was like, we wanted to prove, that we could do it. Just like Faith No More or whatever, like any of the bands we loved, And at first we were like, oh, that's not it. I mean, we're just dreaming here. But then we started playing in Europe and having good shows and stuff and going, oh, we could do this. We could do this. And we were young enough to believe that, Seriously, man, it's like, I reckon Five Eyes is as good as anything we've done. But the thing for us, which is different, is I'm not prepared as a 43-year-old man to sit in a van and eat shit for 2 years of my life. Because life's too short for that. At the same time, I fully believe that that's a record that needs to be played to people, or that I reckon needs to be played to people, and I believe in it, But it's a different time in my life, It's strange. It's really interesting that,
I believe a lot of your early material on the guitar was written 2 semitones down. Is that correct?
Yeah, because my voice, it was. Standard tuning's always too high. It was always too high for my voice.
All right.
Or
I've always wondered how heavier bands especially, find the right tuning for their sound, and was that the case?
It's just trial and error. I mean, it's basically, yeah. But the thing is, again, I didn't write for my voice. I just wrote what I heard in my head. I went, that's the melody line that I hear. Now sing it, and it was like, ouch. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe if we bring it a couple of steps down.
All right.
Oh, still ouch, but I can do it. Like that's pretty much it. It gave us a sound as well. It was like that didn't really sound like other bands. A couple of steps down. There's a darkness to the way the harmonics work on a guitar in D. I don't know what it is. That's how it is. It sings dark, and suited that music. And we actually probably unconsciously wrote our riffs based on that sound as well.
Yeah. Have you maintained that since the early time? Have you switched tunings?
We've switched tunings all over the place. Well, Killjoy, Fish album, General Electric's in D, so that's all the same. Love's New Hate's same. Then we switched to standard tuning on Beautiful Machine,
Wow, interesting.
which gave it a totally different sound, which probably made it that lighter sound. You know, it does have a lighter sound, but I was really loving the way the harmonics worked in standard tuning, so we went with it. And then on what is it, Ignite, again standard tuning, but then we discovered this sort of weird low drop, low note, which we actually stolen off the Mint Chicks, the New Zealand band, who were doing that whole thing, which was basically tuning your bottom string to a bass register. And then we went, right, that was the one song on the Ignite that we liked. We're going to do that for the whole record.
Sleep Eater?
Yeah, it was Sleep Eater, I think. Yeah. Or, no, it was Rule the World, you know, that triplet-y song. Yeah, which has got a good riff, you know, like it's got a good sound. It's different sounding, you know. So, yeah, that was, so we went, right, we'll do that on the whole record. But then, even then, I think one of my guitars got really badly handled by a Qantas baggage handler, and it had made the tuning even flatter, and that actually sparked a whole lot of writing, like FVEYs and stuff like that. It's like, ooh, that's even darker, you know. Wow. So
it's like a happy accident.
Yeah, it was a happy accident. Yeah, so we sort of based a lot of it around that weird tuning.
So what is the actual tuning on?
Oh, now it's basically everything's a step down rather than two steps down. So it's E flat or D sharp, but then the bottom string is dropped an octave below the A string. So the A string is now tuned to G sharp, and the bottom string is tuned to G sharp below it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just one big. So then you write songs like FVEYs. So it's basically you're trying to make riffs that sound like one big string doing one thing at the same time. We're the top end of a bass. Me and Phil are the top end of the bass. Carl's the bottom end of the bass, and that's what we're doing. You know, it's like, and then the trick is to make sure that it's in tune and that it's tightly played. You know, so I'm having to adjust the way I play it. I can't hit it as hard as I do on Killjoy.
Wow.
But the effect is just as big, you know. It's cool.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it sounds fucking awesome, as you know.
It's cool, yeah. It's
like,
cool.
Cheap as, like that riff.
Oh, it's awesome fun, man.
It's a monster.
Especially the second half. As soon as you kick into that second half, it's like, I just can't. I remember hearing that and going, oh, I can't believe that's our band. You know, that's like a riff of a band that I like. You know, like it sounds like another band. It feels like we're playing a cover. Which is cool, you know.
Well, yes, I've seen it several times, and again the other night, I was standing there with a friend of mine, and at the end I was turned to him, and like, let's look at each other. It's like it splits your head open. It's such a monster.
It is. It's a monster, and that comes from Jazz Coleman opening us up to this idea of going, okay, well that's your riff. What does it sound like when you play it twice as fast? It's like, no, it's not supposed to be that. Just do it. Okay, now do it. Ooh, that sounds amazing, you know. So thanks to Jazz Coleman, that exists really.
I'm just wondering, considering how central he was to the writing of that in terms of giving you a brief, are you going to need him as a muse next time around?
You know what? I mean, I would definitely never want to make another record with Shihad where we're producing, self-producing. It's too much work, and it means that I take my eye off the ball of what I'm doing, which is writing the song and playing good guitar. And when I wear too many hats, everything tends to suffer a little bit. My guitar playing goes from 100% to 75%. My songwriting goes down, and my production's not up to a full spec. So, what was great about this was all I was a singer and a guitar player, you know, and it was cool having that. And I wouldn't go into making another Shihad record unless we had a producer, I think. Whether it's Jazz Coleman or not, I don't know. But he works very well with us. He does. Yeah.
Just coming to the end, as a 43-year-old, almost a 44-year-old, which artists and performers and writers are you admiring now?
Right now, so we talked about this earlier. I really like that Kendrick Lamar record. I think it's really good. I like hearing the honesty of it, and the thing is, I like a good hip-hop record. I've loved, even back from Run DMC, I loved the Run DMC record, but then I really loved Public Enemy. For me, during Slayer and even in amongst loving Slayer and Metallica and stuff, Public Enemy, Nation of Millions is a big record for me. Like it's just as heavy as metal, but not using guitars, basically. And they've got something to bitch about that's actually completely honest and completely, worth saying, And then I sort of fell away from hip hop for a while, and then I remember having a conversation while we were living in LA, writing the Pacifier record with this guy from a record company, and basically slagging off modern hip hop and going, hip hop's dead, it's over, it's gone, And he was like, come for a drive with me, and he put on Dre's 2001 The Chronic, and I just went, okay, hip hop's not dead, and I was completely talking out my ass. And that's been one of those records that's lived with me. It's like a classic. It's definitely in my top 20 records of all time. And I don't give a fuck if he's talking about bitch ho motherfucker. It's just the music is just so good. Production's perfect. I love it. It's really good. But then again, I sort of haven't really heard a hip hop record for ages that has done that for me. And then I think what made me listen to that, to Pimp a Butterfly, I think I saw the album cover and went, that's cool. Actually, I'm a big Flying Lotus fan as well, and I knew that he did that track, which I actually didn't like that much. I didn't think it was that great. I like Flying Lotus, the Los Angeles record, and I like the first, the Tea Leaf Dancer EP and stuff like that. And I've found his last two records been a little bit too jazz influenced for me. Yeah. Not a massive jazz fan. I have been listening to Coltrane recently and Miles Davis and actually finally appreciating jazz. Well, just starting to. But so obviously his name came up on that Flying Lotus track. I listened to it, went, it's all right. And then I think I saw the cover of To Pimp a Butterfly and went, that's so cool. And then I heard the first track, King Contra, and went, what the fuck? That's so good.
It's irresistible.
It's so good.
It's interesting that the Dre-Kendrick connection, I don't know if you know this, but Dre produced, or was a big influence in Kendrick's early career, helping him produce his first major label album, which was the one I was recommending to you. Good Kid, Mad City.
Yeah, right.
The album before. To Pimp Butterfly. So that's a good link between those two artists there.
Well, you can even hear it on that track, like with a ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. It's like, well, that sounds like Dre. But the bass playing as well. It's like the fact that it's like a real bass player, and then it changes key, and it's like, what? You don't do that in a hip hop song, and he did. It's like, great. And it's just the words that just roll, and it's just such a beautiful song. And then got the album, then heard the first. I really like the first track on the record. I mean, that is Flying Lotus production, and the bass is just wobbling all over the place, and you're just going, man, he's doing that on a big commercial record. It's so brave and it's so good. It's so good that he's backing himself to do that and putting that on the first song on the record. It works, And then it's like, how much a dollar cost. That to me is like probably my favorite record. Favorite song on the record, which is weird. I have. Complexion's really good as well. But it's beautiful and it is dense, like you say. And there's tracks that I go, ugh, at first, and now that I really like them, I'm ready for my brain's ready for it. And Blackberry, great angry song. Like really good. Reminds me of a metal song. Good metal song. It's great. What else? I liked the Aphex Twin last record. I really liked that. I really like how he writes, because I don't understand it.
Yeah,
it's a mystery to me.
Yeah,
and I really like the fact that he managed to still sound like Aphex Twin, yet make it more palatable, and not lose his Aphex Twinness. It was just because there's nothing that sounds like Aphex Twin, and I like the fact that I found out that he's the same age as me, say exactly the same age, and I like, to me, he's a hero, because I think he's just a great writer, and he's not writing words and stuff, but I like how he writes music, it's really beautiful. That record's really good. I thrashed the shit out of that. What else new? I really like the honesty of Björk's new record. I think it's so heartbreaking. It's an illustration of a breakup, but fucking holding nothing back, It's beautiful writing. Some, I've got this new radio show where I can play whatever I want. And I have tried to track list it. It's quite hard to track list because it's very personal, you know, and it demands your attention. And some people, if they haven't got an open mind, they could find it a little bit kooky. But I think it's lyrically fucking amazing. I mean, she's got a song called A History of Touches on there, where she's recalling the last time they really made love, and just knowing that that's going to be the last time. It's fucking heartbreaking, you know. And it's like, and I actually know that because I've been through that sort of breakup, you know, and knowing that's, and it reminding her of all the times they've touched, you know. It's like fucking beautiful, you know. But and so unguarded, you know.
It's interesting you play in a rock band and you've gone for 3 non-rock albums.
Yeah, totally. But that's it, you know. It's like I started off on Beatles' Hard Day's Night, you know.
Yeah.
It just so happened that that's where I joined the game, was when I was listening to Metallica. So that's how my introduction into playing music was, or writing music was, right when I was getting into Metallica. So that was my main influence, you know. So, but I've always loved music, you know. So it's, yeah, I'm always looking for something new. I'm always looking, or for a lack of something new, something old that I never got into, like, you know, Coltrane record or you know, Miles Davis or something like that, where I go, I don't understand that. Maybe it's time, you know, maybe it's time.
Just final question. You mentioned when you were a small child you would watch the vinyl record spinning around, just fascinated by it. Yeah. The magic of the sound coming out of that form. Knowing as much as you do about music now and being a career musician, do you still find yourself enraptured in that same way? I'm actually going through a renaissance right now with music, and it's I think it comes out of actually, because when my dad passed away like 3 or 4 years ago, I gave my record player to my mum so she could listen to all his Frank Sinatra records. So I've been without a turntable for a while. I finally, for my Christmas present, last year I bought myself a record player, and went and grabbed all my records that have been sitting in storage and actually started pulling them out and listening to them, and it was just as magic as ever. And it was like, oh yeah, this is good, you know. So, and then I got offered this job where I was like playlisting a radio show in New Zealand, and it's really nice to actually do that, knowing that I don't have any. They give me no restrictions, so I can literally go from, you know, Kendrick Lamar to the Stranglers to, you know, to Metallica if I want, you know, and I do, you know, and it's great. And it's like, what do I want to listen to now? You know, that's literally what I'm doing at the moment. And I'm really going through a rediscovery of a lot of music and loving it, you know, like really loving it. It's great. And then, you know, on top of it, I wrote with Sudanese musicians at the start of the year, but they're very different, you know, like they're using different scales, and they're also, I was working with 2 female drum groups that just play wedding music, traditional Sudanese wedding music, and it's like they just use vocals and rhythm, so it's hand claps and tablas and congas and these big pumpkins that are floating in big pools of water that they hit with sticks and stuff like that. Wow. So I recorded a whole bunch of that. But what's great for me is, because there's no musical accompaniment, it's only vocals, it means that I've now taken that back, put it into Ableton, and now I'm playing bass and guitar and keyboards and all sorts of stuff over the top of it, and it's making me go, right, I'm having to see it like totally differently again, and go, all right, they're using a scale that I have no idea, but it works with this, you know? So it's making me like look at the instruments and going, right, I'm using notes or combination of notes that I'm not used to. So that's been really refreshing as well. And I like the fact that they're singing about love in a totally different way, you know, and it's all in Arabic, you know, so, and I'm learning Arabic, so I'm learning what they're saying at the same time as learning the language, so it's pretty interesting, yeah. It's been great talking to you, John.
Yeah, cool, bro. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Life's pretty weird at the moment. It's great.
Thanks for listening to Penmanship, and thank you to my guest, Jon Toogood. I encourage you to check out Shihad's music As I said at the beginning, they are one of my favourite bands, and I recommend them to everyone. If you've got feedback on Penmanship, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me, andrew@penmanshippodcast.com, also on Twitter, @penmanshipau. Show notes and links to the topics discussed in this episode, as ever, can be found at penmanshippodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Till next time.